Serge, like your baby face.
Yeah.
It is still weird to see like gifs come up of everyone's faces, or my own now of like in the past being younger or different. And this must be what it feels like to be a child star, like the cast of Harry Potter, and like the world is watching you age. And judging you.
I've heard
like, didn't age well.
I've heard that's where a lot of the success in The Simpsons came from. Is despite being on TV for over 20 years, the characters have never aged because they're cartoon characters.
Oh, that's nice.
As opposed to watching something like Full House, and you're like, oh, it's really it's weird, right? And, Olsen twins going from like whoop to not.
Yeah, you have to keep introducing new characters in a live action thing. Although I feel like there's very extensive and very convoluted like timelines for the Simpsons, because they have this weird like floating timeline thing in The Simpsons where they'll keep retconning things to like.
You have to, right?
When Homer and Marge met keeps changing to like is like 20 years different from when it was originally.
Sure.
Because it doesn't work anymore for them to have met at Woodstock or whatever.
Yeah, well, and you can't have an arc of them finishing school or entering high school or anything like that, right? They're sort of in this weird position of being stuck in time.
Wow. So those explains like those like TV movies where the child star is like still dressing as like a child star when they get older. Is that going to happen to us? And also, should we have animated character versions of ourselves so that we're ageless?
So and then we just do the voices?
Can we just start retconning how Desert Bus started?
Yes,
each
I
year?
like that. We need to freshen it up,
It's like
guys.
Desert Bus started 3 years ago.
Yeah, so we were all at Woodstock, and we were watching Jimi Hendrix's set, and we're like, wow, just so motivated about how talented a musician he is. We should do something and give back to the world too, and thus Desert Bus was born.
Right.
So we got on our bus with Penn and Teller, and
So
we're
it was
like,
a real bus when it
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
This is like the future
I have
version.
my bus driver's license, so
There you
I
go.
was driving.
Yeah.
I hope.
This is
perfect.
Serge, I have concerns that your idea of updating Desert Bus is setting it further back in the past.
Yeah.
Woodstock.
Wait, yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
All right.
That's very Surge, though.
There's
Classic Surge.
There's like a tricky line between like retconning something and just lying. Is there a line there? I don't know what the difference between retconning and
Well,
lying
we could go
is.
with the moon-based theory, though, right? Because the first Desert Bus 3 was moon-based. Desert Bus 2 was moon-based.
Desert Bus 2 was at the moon base, yeah.
Desert Bus 2 was at the moon base, and we've been at the moon base since then.
Yeah. These are just different
These-
rooms at the same moon
Right.
base.
I mean, these are just different dimensional years of Desert Bus.
Time moves differently on the moon than it does in other places.
We are all
Right.
Because
Desert
it doesn't,
Bus.
the moon doesn't rotate in the same way as.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
So
and
all-
we're on the bright side, not the dark side.
We're on the bright side of
We're
the
on the
moon.
bright side, yeah, because we help kids, and we're a charity event. We're good.
Yeah.
We're on the
Good. We're on the force.
We're
Yeah.
on the bright side.
Okay, I could see that.
We're not on the dark side. That's all
Not-
we can say where the location of the moon base is.
Yeah, the dark side is just all Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
The dark
It's
side
got
of the
those
bus.
big spectrum triangles everywhere. It's
Yeah,
kind of
it's
dangerous. It's
hard
a
to
bit
go to
like
sleep,
a
yeah,
forest.
It's true. They talk a lot about what's on the dark side of the moon, but not what's on the light side of the moon. Apparently, it's Desert Bus. All Desert Bus is happening simultaneously at the
That's
same
right.
time, stacked
Just
on
going in
dimensional
circles.
dimension.
You got
all
it.
of us. So there's a James up here who's the first Desert Bus, and there's
Yeah.
a James down here who's super old with a
Oh.
beard and age.
Ooh.
And there's
now.
a huge
Nega
monolith
James.
there, in the
Holy
background,
crap.
right? That really big monolith from 2001
Right.
is what's helping us
Keep going.
keep
This
those
is-
dimensions
This
active.
is just blowing my mind
The
right
road's
now.
basically the monolith.
The idea that all
Right.
the idea that all desert buses take place all at the same time,
Oh God, I don't like that.
overlaid on top of each other in
So
different
it goes.
realities.
So it goes.
Realities, all of them.
All-
Infinite realities.
Infinite
James, we're gonna have to do this for a while.
That's a big yikes for me.
But there's
So-
a version of it where we're all animated.
That's right.
We'll
That's
do.
it's great.
We'll
There's
do
probably
this.
like a claymation universe too.
Oh,
Yeah.
And we're all teeny tiny little people in one.
We'll talk about the Slaughterhouse 5 version of time, where you're on a train looking through a tube at a mountain range, and some of us are just unstuck in time. So it goes, right? Perfect. Yeah, the very Kurt Vonnegut.
There we go.
Perfect.
Yes, there it is. Can't wear hats. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that
There's-
is terrifying.
There's a great short story about it's about very very early. It's a science fiction thing about they're going to be sending people to the moon. This is before they actually did send people to the moon, and they wanted to test to see whether people can like be in a spaceship, confined in a spaceship for that long, because at the time, in the story
Yeah.
they thought that it would take a couple weeks to get there, and so they're like, okay, we'll do a simulator that they're in, a simulator that they're in for a couple of weeks and stuff, but they, of course, they in order for the simulator to work properly and to get the right psychological thing, they tell the astronaut they tell the people that they're going to go to the moon, and so they're going into this simulator, thinking that they're actually going to be going to the moon. And they're going to be the first ones to see the dark side of the moon, right? And so they're going to this, and basically it's just going very slowly towards this, like a picture of the moon that they can see out the window. But
Right.
so, but the problem, and in the story, the problem is that the system messes up, and the track that they're on is a little bit too long. They go a little bit too far, and so they end up seeing the dark, like the back of the moon.
Right.
But because this is a simulator, the back of the moon is just like a plank with like things holding it in place. And so they're like, oh my God, there's no dark side of the moon.